Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Molly McGurr. I am the Events and Program Manager for Traverse Connect. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. If you have any questions at all throughout this entire presentation, we definitely do encourage you to ask them. Located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you will see a Q&A button. So please feel free to use that button throughout any point in the presentation to ask any questions you might have. We are going to save all of the questions for the end, but we would love if as you have them come up, please type them in and we'll definitely make sure we get to them. On that note, I'm going to turn it over to Brenda McClellan. Brenda, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Molly. And hi, everyone. My name is Brenda McClellan. I'm the Director of Investor Relations at Traverse Connect. And I'm delighted to introduce to you Trevor Tkach. He is the President and CEO of Traverse City Tourism and started that position in September of 2016. Trevor made the natural transition into this role following a successful 10-year career with the National Cherry Festival, where he served 5 of those years as the executive director. Trevor grew up in Traverse City, and after graduating college, joined the West Michigan Whitecaps baseball team in Grand Rapids as an account executive and later senior account executive. Trevor showcases his passion for economic and social and cultural issues as an active member of many nonprofit organizations. Trevor is treasurer of the Michigan Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau, vice president of TC Boom Boom Club, which is a fundraising organization for the 4th of July fireworks. He is also a board member of Traverse Connect and a board member of Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. He's an active member of Rotary, and Trevor also serves on the board of Rotary Charities in Traverse City. He and his wife, Tricia, love living in Traverse City and with their 3 children, Lauren and Camden and Carson. So thank you for joining us today, Trevor.
Geez, thanks. That was a mouthful there. I'm gonna apologize up front to Jonathan and Jason who are gonna help me out today. I do not have bios for you guys, okay? So you're not gonna get that kind of love from me. But we'll keep this loose, we'll keep it light. You know, in these difficult times, I think it's important to kind of find some levity when you can. So let's blow through some wonderful slides. I mean, more data. Who doesn't want to see more data, right? So I'll put up my PowerPoint here. Hopefully y'all can see it. Let's see if I can figure this out. Yes, looks like I've got it. All right, so what we're gonna do today is go through some information about what's happening in the hospitality and tourism sector in our region as it relates to the COVID-19 impact and the economic recession that's been following it. You know, I'm reflecting back to March 10th, just about a month and a half ago, we were having an open house kickoff party for our new members in Benzie County. We had just taken on representation of more than 20 hotels out in Benzie and thusly taking on the opportunity to represent the Benzie region more fully. More than 100 people showed up. It was this great party at 5 Shores. If you haven't been there, once everything's opened back up, I highly recommend going out there. Just 3 days later, on Friday the 13th, I was telling my staff to pack up their stuff and prepare to start working from home. Less than a week later, I was laying off 50% of those employees temporarily. So it's crazy how fast everything has kind of moved here, and I know we're all going through it together. And that's what I think is really important, as I've shared in other webinars and in some of the publications I've been interviewed by. There can't be any trade secrets right now. There's no competitive advantage for any of us. We as a region need to work together and work very hard at sharing any and all intel that we have about the situation. I'm as open and transparent as it comes, but even more so right now with our membership, but with the community at large as well. I think it's important that we all keep a good open dialogue, and I give kudos to Traverse Connect for coordinating a lot of these webinars and helping bring people together to gather information, but even more so to not to limit it just to their members. I think it's great that they've opened this up to the community at large, not just businesses, but everyone having access to these resources has been very, very helpful. So hats off to the Traverse Connect team. I know you guys are working vigilantly to get good information out to us. So thank you for that. Traverse City Tourism is the destination organization kind of for the 5-county region. And if you think about it from an employment standpoint, about 1 in 6 jobs in the 5-county region are directly associated with travel, tourism, and hospitality. In our organization, we really look at our strategic plan as being 3 main goals, which are consistent with the Pure Michigan goals, which are marketing and partnerships, destination development, and policy and funding. Now, we are a machine when it comes to marketing and partnerships. I think Traverse City Tourism is probably the best marketing machine for a destination anywhere in the Midwest, honestly. We're getting better at destination development as we start to learn what that means and how that interfaces with the community. But right now, just like all of you, we are completely overwhelmed by the policy and funding piece. We are constantly watching the same executive orders you are, trying to decipher all the financing options, trying to navigate all this, national, federal, state, and local regulation. And I'm confident, I'll just say this, I'm extremely confident that when things do start to turn, that when we do finally have an opportunity to start doing business in the new normal setting, Traverse City is going to rebound more quickly because we are such a strong marketing machine here. And it's not just Traverse City Tourism. I will say our partners and members are extremely passionate, and a lot of you are on that call today, and I appreciate your support, and we will blow through this this crisis together. The slides that I'll share with you kind of give you a broad brush here of what's happening nationally. It doesn't take a economist to realize if a chart or a graph is going down, that's not a good sign. Clearly, we're losing money every single week nationally when it comes to travel and tourism. In fact, this past week, if you look at that bottom graph, we're roughly at 90% below where we should be from a travel perspective. This slide from Travel Economics put it together for U.S. travel really is telling. I mean, these are big numbers, hard to wrap your head around, but $1.2 trillion in total economic loss so far, 8 million jobs lost due to travel changes. And on a state level, Michigan Restaurant Lodging Association has done a real nice job of trying to keep tabs on this, but I'll tell you, it's already out of date, folks, even within the past week that it's been out there. I've heard that roughly 75% of all restaurant employees have been laid off. I think it's more than that now. And the numbers are just staggering. In fact, I was on the phone with one of our bigger properties today, and they were talking about the layoffs that they were going to start to have to notify people of. And it's just heartbreaking because no one wants to have to do it. But the reality is, there's just no more dollars available to keep things moving forward. The other part to this equation that I think is important that we recognize is the impact it's having on tax collection at the local, state, and federal level. Not only is the government handing out money, some of it grants, some of it's loans, in other ways of infusing dollars into the economy. So we're spending at a higher level than normal. We're also not collecting as a country at the same levels that we're accustomed to. So just from a travel perspective, to look at these billions of dollars, right, thousands of millions, this is going to have a long-term impact on our economy, and we need to be mindful of that. I know right now it's not on the front burner, it's on the back burner, but I think once we start to get through this, we all need to be cognizant. Not only have we doled out a lot of funds as a country, state, and locally, but we've lost a lot of revenue. So we're probably going to have to deal with different types of government opportunities. Some of the resources are going to probably have to be limited moving forward, and we're probably going to have a lot of legacy debt that we have to dig through. Cancellations, it's hard to even keep track of everything that's been canceled in our region. It's heartbreaking to follow all of it. But on the national level, obviously, we've all seen the Olympics have been postponed till next year. I mean, Germany has already canceled Oktoberfest, which is in late September. Boston Marathon, Kentucky Derby have been postponed, which is great, to see some of these bigger iconic events not canceling completely, but actually moving their date is good to hear. And I've heard a lot of stories in Europe about how they are really, really limiting what business can be done from a travel and hospitality perspective. And I because they were going through these challenges before the United States, I think a lot of times I look to Europe to see that as an indicator of what we might be expecting from a timeline standpoint as we're trying to figure out when we're going to come back online. This is a list of some of the bigger activities and events that have canceled or will be canceled or postponed in our region. Leelanau Peninsula Wine Trails events through June, which is hard because normally we would be ramping up a lot of our business in the spring for hospitality and tourism, and those wine events definitely do a lot for us, including like the Blossom Festival as well, which is linked back to the wineries. Iconic events like Mushroom Festival and Asparagus Festival, it's heartbreaking to see some of those have to take a year off. And of course, the granddaddy down there, the National Cherry Festival, which is close to my heart, to see that one have to take a year off for all the right reasons, obviously, for public safety, but also from an economic standpoint, to try to turn on some of these big events, not knowing whether or not you can even host people is a huge financial endeavor that if it did not work out would be probably to the detriment to some of these larger events. Sleeping Bear, there's events out there that are being postponed or canceled. The park is actually somewhat closed until July 1. Golf events, food, wine, beer events. And what does that mean? So a lot of these events, the bigger ones, are having multi-million-dollar impact on our economy. My last year at the National Cherry Festival, I did an economic impact study to get a sense of how much was being infused into our economy. And at that point, this is, 5-year-old numbers. Now that's $24 million. So if you think, if we're going to lose somewhere between $25 to $30 million of economic impact. It was going to be a Blue Angel year, 4th of July weekend, big concert. I mean, that's money we will not be able to recover. We've just lost that economic activity. It's gone. I mean, those are dollars that are coming in from outside of our market and being spent and left here in our region. So we need to recognize, multiply that by however many events end up being canceled this year. When you don't have a Bay Shore Marathon, when you don't have the big T-Bay soccer tournaments, those start to add up. It might seem like, oh, it's just $1 million here or there, but when you really start to total it up, and I'm sure at some point we will, it's just a really tough pill to swallow. And this is another kind of underlying component that we don't talk a whole lot about publicly, but we've got 8 full service properties that we represent. Of those, and those are properties that can do bigger events like Grand Traverse Resort and Spa or Shanty Creek or Park Place. We've got the event space, do the weddings, do bigger group meetings, conferences. We've already lost, from just 5 properties that I've put calls out to, we lost 380 groups so far, and that's representing more than $8 million. So think about from a total business standpoint when it comes to travel in our region, group is a good piece of business. It's not our biggest piece of business. We're still a leisure destination, but this group business has definitely been part of the puzzle that makes us as successful as we are. And to lose a piece like this, 8.1 million is just related to the food and beverage and room nights lost for that property. It doesn't include all the money that those people spend when they come into market, because they go to attractions, they go to the wineries, they go downtown, they shop, they eat. So there's definitely a multiplier effect to that 8.1. So a lot is being lost right now as we lose these groups. Some of them are being rebooked for later in the year. Some are being rebooked for years down the road, but we will not ever have another opportunity to make the money on that day. And that's what we have to remember. It's great, that we hopefully will get that business at some point, but you're not getting it tomorrow, and that's going to be a challenge. Here's some indicators that we're looking at to see maybe when we will start to see guests or see more guests coming into our market and see more free flow of hospitality commerce. this is a nice slide from destination analysts, kind of giving public perception of whether or not we need to have a vaccine before we start to travel again. I thought it was somewhat telling. I figured it would actually be more people who were waiting for a vaccine, but still with that, it's more than 35% of people who kind of believe that, yeah, I'd like to see some sort of cure for this before I get back on the road. So that's a big part of the market. I found this slide today. Longwoods International and Miles Partnerships do a lot of research on travelers' intent, and this graph kind of indicates, most of the top indicators as to when we're going to be able to do business. No big surprise is when the federal and state governments say we can do business. So I think the sooner we got to continue to advocate for this, the sooner we can get the state to loosen regulations and allow businesses to, practice safely, the better off we're going to be, because that'll, I think, reassure people that they can travel again, or they can go out and go to restaurants. Not to risk health and safety, but I do believe that once we figure out what those norms are, be it wearing the PPEs, the masks, and having the social distancing kind of pre-built in the hotels and restaurants and wineries, I think a lot of us would like to get back to business. I thought some other key pieces down here towards the bottom, kind of looking to see when Disneyland and Disney World reopen. But then too, to know when we're going to reopen as destinations, are we ready for people? And that's part of the marketing strength that Traverse City has, that once things are good to go, we're going to have a marketing budget and plan that's going to let the rest of the world know that, hey, yeah, we're ready. We're ready to take customers safely, keep our community safe, but also keep visitors safe too. And then also the bottom one probably isn't getting a whole lot of recognition right now, but I think it will start to rise as some of the bigger ones are checked off towards the top. I think a lot of people are going to be looking for deals this year, which is kind of insult to injury for most of us, because, we already are taking a bath, not making any money right now. And then we're going to have to offer a deal to get them back. But, from a travel standpoint, when we think about trying to fill up hotels, our first goal is just going to get people to be driving people back into the rooms, get them back in for a stay, which is driving occupancy. The second part of the equation will be trying to get the rates back up to where they were. So, we can't go back online with the same rate forecast that we had a year ago. We're going to have to go in with open eyes that, yeah, our price points are probably going to have to be lower. We're probably going to have to offer discounts and deals during a time of year when we've never had to discount our products in the summer. I like this graph. This came from Madden. They're our digital media partner. They're recognized globally. I think this is telling about what consumers are going to want to do once they can travel again, and we are in the catbird seat for this. This is great news for us. They want to be in nature, they want to go to beaches, and they want to be in small towns. They don't want to be in congested areas, guys. So the better stories we can tell about, hey, come find your piece of beach all to yourself. It doesn't have to look like Fort Lauderdale, folks. I mean, we've got all kinds of beach up here. Even with high water, we still have beach. We've got, the great outdoors. We've got more space in our 5-county region for people to enjoy themselves than anywhere. And we still have the sophistication with the restaurants and wineries. And we're just going to have to find new ways to serve those guests if we can't do it like we have in the past, be it having more outdoor seating or more to-go options where people can take it back to the hotels or the properties they're staying at and enjoy that food with their family and friends there. How are they going to get here? I think it shouldn't come as too big of a surprise that most people aren't too excited about getting on an airplane or a boat anytime soon, or a cruise ship, I should say. They want to get on their boats to fish. They don't necessarily want to go on a cruise ship. But people are going to be driving to the destinations. They're going to be traveling by car. Traverse City has traditionally been a road trip destination. We've been really building up our partnership with the airport over the past few years. The Cherry Capital Airport has done a great job of pulling together more nonstop direct flights to Traverse City. I think we're going to get some of those to come online this year, not as many as we have, but hopefully at some point we see some uptick in airline travel. But I would say the majority of our focus will be on trying to capture a drive market, meaning in-state travel, and then immediate Midwest, bigger metros that have the ability to get north and take advantage of our amenities. So we know we're a big part of the economy. We know travel is really important, and we can be a big part of saving the economy, but we can only do that if we survive this challenging time. I think Roger Dow did a nice job of articulating that, and they continue to lobby for us in DC, and we're grateful for that. Kind of reflecting on the 3-phase sort of plans that the nation has put out there. The president's plan, I think, is pretty sound. We're kind of in phase 1 right now, which restricts any leisure travel. You can't really meet, or you shouldn't be meeting in groups of 10 or more people. Once we get to a point where, it feels like it's safe to move around again, we'll move on to a phase 2, where maybe you can meet in groups of up to 50 people. And you can, in travel restrictions will be loosened to a point where it's really up to the hotels and lodging facilities to regulate the health and safety of their personal businesses for their customers and for their employees. So phase 3 is back to business kind of as normal, but I think from what I understand, it's still going to have restrictions to it. What's really, really hard to watch right now, though, is in Michigan, because it has kind of been a partisan battle. You've got, certain plans coming out of the administration and the governor's office, the legislature, the House has their own plan, the Senate has their own plan, the GOP in the Senate has their own. There's like 4 plans right now. So the state really needs to get together and understand collectively how they can help get all of us back to work, back to business as usual, because I think a lot of the roadblocks for all of us right now are in Lansing. What we're kind of doing right now, and I think everybody's doing it, but what Traverse City Tourism is trying to do with its members is kind of monitor what's happening, constantly, trying to figure out how we're getting people into the unemployment system and out of the unemployment system as quickly as we can. The workforce safety and the sanitation issues are going to be key for all businesses, obviously, and I think there's some good stuff coming out right now, in fact, that's going to help us all get back to business from that regard. We're going to have to track records, which is interesting, trying to keep track of where people are and what they're doing, so then you can track back if you have, a COVID-19 incident, you can kind of figure out who it might have been passed along to for safety. And then getting back on track with the marketing and cancellations. The marketing we've done thus far during the crisis has really been softer. We've done bright spots, some good feel-good sort of pieces, not necessarily call to actions, really just trying to keep Traverse City top of mind, keep people feeling good. We've tried to help drive more locals to local restaurants, the dining at a distance and other marketing that we've done to keep people going to the restaurants. And attractions that they can has been important. We've done some do-it-yourself videos, which have been fun. And I tell you, what I've been really excited about, this Happy Place, which I think is kind of going to be our marketing call to action once we finally do get rolling. That video that we did was our most clicked on link in the history of all of our email distributions we've ever done. So clearly people are still interested in Traverse City, and they're excited to, once they can, get back on the road and go have some fun. So I've got 2 friends on the line with me today, Jonathan Pack from Superior Hospitality and Jason Homa from Cherry Republic. And I'm going to ask them a few questions and get them kind of talking about how their businesses have been affected by the crisis. Talk a little bit about what they're doing to kind of get back into some business as usual now, and then what they're going to do moving forward. And then I know that I see a number of questions are popping up. So Jonathan, maybe you can kick it off. Tell us what sort of business does Superior Hospitality do, sir?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Trevor. We manage and operate Sleep Inn in Acme, Traverse City. We also manage and operate Brio Beach Inn and Points North Beachfront Resort, and then soon the new 539 Bay Street. So we have the 4 properties in Traverse City here.
Okay, so when the crisis first hit, how did you guys react?
Disbelief. No, you know, we weren't quite sure. We're in a better position in properties as far as being able to scale back pretty well while still covering things and making sure guests are taken care of. But there was a lot of uncertainty at first. You know, it slowly dwindled. We still had, you still have a lot of business traffic, but it slowly dwindled. So we actually adapted to helping Goodwill in at Sleep In, which was a big help. We liked being a help to Goodwill in, and then I think they've been a big help to us as well. So that was very beneficial for us, and we're not taking advantage of the situation. We're just trying to make sure that they're safe, and that and the flip side, that our business is safe and operating. So that's been a benefit. Our other property, for instance, like Points North, really the outdoor corridors have been a huge help. People feel safe if they have to come to the area. Everything from essential workers to people who had to see an ailing or dying mother. They were coming up and they felt safer. We got the sense that they felt safer with the outdoor corridors without having to go through a big public space or indoor corridors.
What are you seeing in the hotel space in our region? Have other hotels kind of shifted on the fly like you have, or I mean, what are you witnessing on a local level and maybe state, national level in the hotel sector?
Well, the big thing is, you know, can you operate without going into the red too much? We were in the state that we were in a better position where we didn't have a huge overhead on us, like a big mortgage payment. You know, we of course have costs, but we were just in a better place with those costs. I think from past, you know, some of other properties, when you have that huge cost on top of you, it doesn't make sense to stay open in those situations. So we benefit greatly from that. You know, frankly, I hate to say it, but we also benefited from the fact that with the closures of so many properties throughout the region, it limited the availability, it limited the supply. So we were that one that was available and open. Going through that, one of our main concerns was making sure we were not just kind of the floodgates open and not being silly about it. We were doing and reading up on all the preventive actions. Number one, confirming all of our chemicals were safe against the COVID virus, which they are. It's an unlayered virus, which thank goodness is a very easy one to kill with your cleaning chemicals. That was number one. Number two was setting up safeguards with everything from handling credit cards to IDs to key cards, and then public spaces around the area. How were we cleaning those? When were we cleaning those? How are we going to keep the staff safe? How are we going to keep the guests safe? We closed down our breakfast almost immediately to prevent a congregation of guests. You know, essentially we have a stay-in-room policy almost that's been clarified to our guests through letters to them right at check-in, and make sure they're understanding the practices that we have in place. Pool closures, pools are closed, exercise rooms are closed. So it's been difficult, but we've also provided in those letters, the dining at a distance was a great benefit. That's really been helpful. Great website too, as well as like where to go on a walking trail and things like that. If you can't exercise in a hotel, where can you get your exercise, which is very important. So those are the things that we've taken on and helped our guests.
If you're comfortable talking, how has this affected your staffing?
Well, we lost, you know, we were down to bare bones. You know, I'm covering front desk spots as well. I'm making sure, of course, absolutely no overtime. Housekeeping, I'm essentially down to 2, but the way we're cleaning rooms is differently too. We're doing precautions where we let a room sit for 3 days before we enter it to make sure that we're kind of at the max amount of time for what COVID could survive on steel. Plastic and cotton is a little different, but we're doing that max amount of time to prevent exposure for our housekeeping staff. So it is different. The phone lines are essentially non-existent, you know, and the phones are going to be the first ones to show us how demand will return. But staffing, we've cut about 4. and they're on unemployment. We're checking with them. I'm checking with them weekly and making sure they're good, which is good. We're keeping them all in the group texts and making sure they're good, which has been, and they're happy and healthy, most importantly. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a different synergy. It's definitely a different feel inside the property.
So you mentioned phones ringing would be an important indicator for you as to whether or not you're kind of getting back to some sort of normalcy. They're not ringing, but you clearly get bookings in a lot of different ways. Most people book online now. So have you seen any indication there that people are starting to make summertime plans and maybe booking some rooms further out?
No, unfortunately, everyone's in limbo. We get some people are adjusting from, say, June reservations to September. We've had a lot of adjustments to the fall. It's a lot of wariness from our leisure travelers. I will say our corporate business, though, we're starting to see a little more day of reservations through the websites, and them just kind of popping in, more walk-ins. So it's interesting to see. It's not enough for me to say, oh wow, we're out of it, but it's enough to give some hope and make it feel a little more fun. Today there was gosh, I was telling my staff I was giddy because there was, I come in and you don't just sit down and wait. Not that we do that anyways, but we find something else to do. But it was actually helping guests and it's funny how that revitalizes us in this time. But it was pretty fun this morning, having a lot of guest requests and just seeing some more business and different business in the area.
When things do start to pick up, what do you anticipate your customers are going to want that they didn't necessarily want before? What are you preparing for once people are traveling again to make sure that you get your fair share of the business?
I think the big thing is just a clear communication of what safety we have in place. There are a lot of things, everyone's reading so much at home and we're facing that. I had a lady the other day ask me if we were all tested in the property. And I said, we weren't. We do the screening questions as given to us by Grand Traverse County. We're filling those out. We're taking temperatures. We're monitoring everything. The staff knows that no one's to come in if they're having any of those symptoms. But the lady was very worried that we weren't doing testing, and she had a mask on, and I couldn't help but think that her mask was only covering her mouth. It wasn't covering her nose as well. And I was like, everyone is just in such a different state of how we're judging each other and how we're staying safe. So I think keeping up with what the CDC is offering, there's a lot of great communication from MRLA, Traverse Connect. Keeping up with that and making sure we're doing and educating ourselves and not being so grounded that we can't adjust and be flexible to add a new challenge. My staff knows, I don't have my mask on right now. I'm in my office, but, as soon as we go out and about, we have our masks on. My mom made a nice mask to fit our brand for our staff. So it's been interesting. And frankly, we hate it all. We hate the lack of hospitality with the whole process, but we understand what we have to do right now, and that's how we've changed.
Yeah, my mom made me a mask too. Is that a thing? Is everybody's mom making them a mask?
And texting shortly after, making sure we're wearing it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Did you put that on when you were pumping gas? Yeah, I had it on. Let's see. When you're trying to project, this will be my last question. Then we'll shift over to Jason, and then we'll come back for some Q&A. But when you're trying to make long-term projections, and I know you're a numbers guy. Full disclosure, Jonathan is my treasurer for Traverse City Tourism's board. So he's a good numbers guy. He gets it. I mean, when you're trying to figure out the future demand at your properties and figure out what it's going to look like over the next, let's say 6, 12, 18 months, what are you thinking?
It's scary. It's really hard to judge that. I won't lie. There are definitely going to be deals out there. For so many years, we've heard at Traverse City, high ADR, high hotel rates. And that's not for the sake of, Traverse City is high for a couple months, but then we drop back down and we're actually national average, for one of the top destinations in the world. we're nationally average, just I think a little above the national average for ADR, but lower in occupancy. So, it all balances out. With that being said, having our summer be impacted like I think it may be is scary. It's we're looking at rate. We actually have a call today to compare our properties and find out where we're sitting, but there's gonna be a lot of people looking for deals. There's gonna be a lot of play out there. It's gonna be old school hospitality. It's not gonna be sitting in my office, kind of adjusting rates. It's gonna be driving the roads. It's going to be asking friends, find out where everyone is, seeing what demand is. It's just going to be that old school approach. I think that's going to get us through this. The number one thing, though, that will help us is get past the state of fear that we're in of travel. We have to get past that, because I hate to see other hoteliers, I'd hate to see other businesses go out of business because there's a state of fear still in place. That's, wherever it's coming from, we need to get out of that. We need to get back to business, because we worry about the livelihood of our staff. If we don't get out of this, where are we all placed? We're all running on basic cash balances that we had before. That cash is not going to sit around forever. We have to earn it back through that summertime push. And if we don't, because in the state of fear, then we're all going to be in very big trouble come fall and winter.
Totally agree. All right, well, let's shift gears here and talk to our friend Jason Homa from Cherry Republic. Jason, why don't you start off? I know a lot of us have a different vision of what Cherry Republic is, but it's a big business. Tell us all the things that your business does.
Right. So we're multi-channel as can be, but starting with our foundation, we do have a production facility in Empire, where we have a jarring and canning line where we make about 40% of our products. We also have a bakery out there and a candy packaging facility, as well as our shipping and receiving part of our business. We're an online merchant. We're on Amazon and have our own full service website that makes up about 35 to 40% of our yearly business. And then what most people are familiar with is our retail footprint. We have 6 stores throughout the state: Ann Arbor, Holland, Frankenmuth, Charlevoix, Traverse City, and our home is in Glen Arbor. And in Glen Arbor, we also have a restaurant facility there as well, a brew pub. At each of our retail locations, we are a state of Michigan licensed winery, so we have tasting rooms as part of our concept as well. So a big part of our business is, in the beverage product line as well. Of course, everything we do is Cherry, being from Traverse City, and we really try to promote through many different programs, giving back and supporting our local agricultural part of our business, which, again, ties into the fabric of our community and tourism, all those pieces. So that's what we do.
So since the crisis has really infiltrated all of your business practices, tell us how it has affected each of them.
Yeah, so this is, it's a puzzle. And I know all of us, on this webinar are going through the same questions in different parts. Fortunately for us, as crazy as what we are in terms of being diversified in different parts of our business, in a lot of ways, it's told some good stories and that along the way. I'll start with a real positive piece to the business. We've long tried to position ourselves as a gift company, where that we could answer a gift solution for people. And right now, people really want to send a gift to somebody. It's a need. We all miss our personal contact and our relationships that we have. We're starved for that. And we can try to do it through Zoom calls and things like this. And it works on a certain level. But boy, we sure miss that. And we've really focused our efforts over the last month on being in front of people for a gifting solution, and it's gone really well. We've kept shipping, and we've converted a couple of our stores over to ship centers, so that if for some reason we did have an illness in our ship center, we would have some backup. So Glen Arbor store and our Traverse City store have been operating as ship centers, as well as our ship center out of Empire. And that's been nice because it's allowed for a certain level of cash coming in, and also some purpose for the business. For a lot of our core salaried staff, we've had to move retail managers into phone order takers and packers over the last month, but it's allowed us to keep some core people employed with purpose, which is really important right now. We've had to lay off over 100 people in the last month and a half. Hurts. Not sure what happens when someone leaves, and you're not sure when they'll come back and if they'll come back, but it's certainly been part of the process in the last month. We're focused on reopening our retail locations. We fall under the same jurisdiction as what a grocery store does. So because we're involved in food, we closed, over the last month, primarily one to do our part in contributing to pushing down the curve, but really it's also because we didn't feel like we were prepared to protect our staff and customer yet. And so working right now to put things in place that'll help us move forward, to be in a retail space. And that's a real challenge. And really listening is some of the best advice I've heard so far, is make sure before we reopen is to really listen to our employees about what the right answers are, because they have the solutions that a lot of time people in leadership think we have them, but we really need to listen to our staff right now to understand what the best solutions are, because they have them. And so we've been working on those plans. The last set of executive orders, there was actually some that didn't apply to everyone out there, but on this, over the course of the weekend, there was a list that came out, really specific to grocery in the environments. And that last set of directives have been very specific about what we need as far as personal protection and in-store signage, those sort of things that we're moving quick to implement. And I guess my statement on that is our mentality is that is how it's going to be going forward. We're not looking for a step back in terms of an answer. We're taking this as being, we're going to put the stuff in place, and through the end of the year, that's going to be our operating procedure. And if things change, great. But we're going to make the best business out of what those requirements are, and be as creative as we can in that space. And that's how we'll come back and try to really be the best place we can through the remainder of the year, frankly.
You're just one of about 45 wineries doing business in this region. It's a big part of the attraction. May is wine month in our state. We were expecting a big kickoff. Where is your head when it comes to tasting rooms and doing business? And I know you can't speak for all the other wineries, but I'm curious to know what you're thinking about right now.
Boy, this is a really, first of all, my heart goes out to anyone who has a bar in any of their facilities, because this is one of the larger questions that I don't, it just is not clear where direction is going to come for responsibly having that activity as part of your environment. The part of the executive order that came through this weekend, again, that we're preparing for, and this affects us. If you've been to Czech Republic, we do a lot of sampling, and it's a big part of who we are. And so we've already been trying to adjust our mindset around there. But part of the executive order this past weekend was that there is no sampling. There's no sampling allowed, and that's a real. Going to wineries, that's a fundamental part of the activity, is it's a core part of the experience, right? And so how you move ahead without sampling is really going to have to take some creative work. I know there's some wineries in the area that have started to do some virtual wine tasting classes and events. I think that type of spirit's going to have to be really followed and built on, is how do you create an experience when you can't have it on your property? And for wineries. Trevor, it's probably our biggest question is our wine piece of the business this year. And I know we will make sales, but can we provide the experience that drives tourism is the question that I don't have an answer for as I sit here today. And I think that goes along with restaurants. And I'll, if you don't mind, I'll speak for a minute about restaurants. You know, we have a great menu out in Glen Arbor. I've been doing it for a couple of years, have had a wonderful business, but that's really changed. And the whole model is now something that I myself am prepared to say this model is going to last through the summer, whatever we come up with, this idea of carry out. And as a restaurant, someone who's running a restaurant, you know, it's really important that we be creative. You know, we come up with a menu that is great for carry out. Not all restaurants, their menu, typically it's a dine-in experience. And so being creative and thinking about really the customer and putting them first is a big part of what we're trying to focus on right now. So if we're going to provide food that goes in a box, when they bring it back to wherever they're going to eat, because that's a big question, where do they take it? When they get home, it's got to be worth the money they put into it. You know, it can't be something that's soggy and not good. And half an hour later, we've got to rebuild our menus to provide a really good dining experience when it's not on site. And so that's a challenge that I think all restaurants are facing right now. The idea that your menu is going to be good when you take it home, we've got to rethink and really be creative in this moment. And so trying to be innovative in that is the work that I think needs to be done. And I think that goes along with the winery. I don't have a solution right at the moment, but we'll find ways to create tasting that's a value to the consumer. And that's really, if we put them first, what's the experience that we're hoping they have with our product is really important. And I think that's an important point. Things like the chamber, you know, what role does a chamber play? What role does our community play together? It's answering some of these questions when, you know, how to connect each other right now to create a good experience for a visitor is a real important question. How does a restaurant work with hotels to make sure that hotels have a microwave in the room or a table to sit at, you know, somewhere on property where people can eat if they can't work on property? Those are good questions to continue to create, you know, a good environment. Those are the things that I wonder about right now in terms of retooling the business.
Yeah, those are great points, Jason, and a lot for all of us included in this call to be thinking about and figuring out together. I know Molly's got some questions that have popped up here. Thank you guys for answering mine, but Molly, do you want to jump on and kind of manage the incoming questions for us?
Yes, yep, we do have a few questions, so I'll just dig right in here. So one of the first ones that we got are the hotels talking about what the rates will be upon opening up again?
Yeah, I guess I'll take that one. I think, you know, I don't think we're all talking about it. I think we're probably quietly late at night looking at the rates of our competitors and seeing where they are daily. That's, like I said, that's the big question. What's going to happen this summer as rate? I've heard some beachfront properties, you know, they go, you know, the summer was planned. They were going to start rates at 300 plus per night. And now they're looking at midweek rates of 200, just about 200 a night. So it's really going to be hard to tell on that. And keep in mind, with the housekeeping changes, if we're having less contact with guests, which is the worst thing about hospitality that we're in, is we've removed all this contact. We've sterilized the experience. You know what Jason was talking about. It's the absolute worst thing for all us hoteliers. So we're going to be down in the dumps, kind of. We'll figure out ways because we're jolly people inside anyways. But if we remove that, now we don't have a need as many people working. And so if we get a lower rate as well and you have less people working, what's going to happen to our unemployed employees? Like, where are they going to go? Where are we going to do? And that's what pains me. That's what's been really hurting me in the last few days, is just thinking, I was like, man, what if we can't come back? What if I can't bring those employees back because housekeeping has changed completely? Because breakfast, my breakfast is closed. I love my breakfast guy. He's phenomenal. Hopefully none of you know who he is, but you know, I want him to come back. I want him to share his hospitality, but I'm sitting here looking at breakfast is how can I make that happen? Because if everything right now is breakfast bag style, where we're delivering to the room, knocking and walking away, so we have no contact with our guests, how does that work in the end? And I come back to Jason, I don't know how the restaurants will work. I mean, when you're doing to go and you don't have waiters, you don't have busboys, you don't have, where are those people going to go in our community to, how are we going to support them? It's just such a hard question. So, and on top of it, you know, the value of all our businesses and stuff like that are based on our business. And now that our business has been depleted, we have these valuations of our properties, and that business is gone. Now now we don't know how to pay for that overhead and the risk that we took before all this. You know, another thing is we came through the winter time where we were all doing renovations and expanding and doing some great things for our properties and excitement for the summer. Now we have this huge debt up here, and we have our income down here now. There's a lot of worries that are going to come about this. So sorry for the long run, but that's as far as rates. I think we're going to see a lot of deals on rates, and it's just going to be a very competitive market going forward.
I'm going to make a comment too, just in terms of outlook. Again, my view on this right now is that the changes that are coming in over the next month, kind of the executive orders, the ways of doing business, they're likely, from my perspective, going to be lasting kind of questions and positions that we need to do our work in. And I think it's good, from my perspective, we're going to have a long tail on this. This is going to last likely through the summer and into the fall. And in there is I know this is kind of a weird thing, but there are some pieces when you just talk about the hospitality industry, just that part of the Northern Michigan business. I'm actually a little more hopeful that there's some recovery in this. For example, the question of dormitories in universities across the country, this is a real question that I don't know how that gets answered. I think there's a lot of questions for school presidents to figure out. Online learning, I think, is here to stay. A lot of the online activities is here, and there's a chance that family vacations are done in September this year, and there's a chance that people who would otherwise be vacating, because the summer gets shorter and shorter every year for us. In a lot of ways, there's an opportunity that families will be doing things this fall and later into the fall and into the year that will help kind of flatten out this issue a little bit for us. And I think there are some opportunities later that we typically haven't had that potentially we would recover some of this. I think the game has changed permanently on a lot of this stuff, and we've yet to see all that play out. But in some ways, at least from my belief, and again, we've still been selling online through this. The consumer going into this was in a lot better position than they were like in 2008. They were in a lot better position, and a lot of the programming that's gone on is meant to help the direct consumers, so that when they are able to come back out, there's a chance that they will be willing to spend some money on things they really want to do, and travel and supporting local are going to be there. And so I'm really pretty hopeful that the reasons why hotels need to charge and restaurants need to charge what they need to charge will be supported by the consumer when we're able to open up a bit. I'm hopeful on that.
Yeah, those are both really, really great points. And someone actually just made a comment that maybe some hotels will create a driver position to pick up takeout food for guests. So, people definitely have ideas out there as well.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
It is. It's a great idea.
And someone else did ask, are restaurants planning on having servers wear masks? Do you think that'll be something that we see moving forward?
Whoa, I mean, I think if the opportunity to have dine-in is opened up, and when that does open up, there is no doubt in my mind that will be part of the program for a period of time, no doubt. The first hurdle is, when will restaurants be able to have dine-in service? That's the big question, and how that and what the requirements are of the consumer. What is now for, starting yesterday, in order to shop in grocery stores, where really all consumers are required to wear a mask into the store itself. That poses a unique challenge to restaurants, because people have to put, food in the mouth. So the mask has to go away. And that's one of those questions that is really unclear how we bridge that gap. And it's the same thing in wine tasting. If you think about being directly across from someone, glasses being shared, someone having to drink, though, and it's a long exposure, 45 minutes for wine tasting, 2 hours for dining. Those long exposures are the real challenge to come up. And that's why the tail on restaurants and wineries, this may be one of the last things that really gets opened back up.
Yeah, exactly. And on that same note, someone did ask, with the need for expanded service space in the bar sector, will MLCC have a rapid approval to expand parameters for service for those who have an outdoor space?
That's a really good question. We do a lot of outdoor seating in Glen Arbor, and it's not clear how outdoor seating is viewed at this point, whether or not it's viewed as on-site seating or not. This is something that we're hoping comes through with more directive in the next set of orders. Again, I think the executive orders on all this stuff is going to roll here that's sort of the advice I've been given, is that over the next month, we're going to see a continual stream of these type of orders that outline things, which are very helpful. We just can't get to them fast enough, frankly, because that question of what is outdoor seating and can you do service at them is another question. Is it just a place to sit and carry out goes to it, or are we actually doing service? I mean, that's another part of the puzzle.
Yes, definitely. Someone did also comment, just for people to know, a website. It's in the chat section where you can upload your business's logo and make fabric with your brand on it. And then someone else commented that Cherry Republic could be doing that for wine and cherry themes to sell and kind of make that the staple for our community, which is a great idea. So I love hearing
That
people.
sounds like a welcome gift for all our visitors coming back. Masks with Trevor State Tourism on them, and
Yes, I love it. I love hearing people's ideas. Another question that we had come in is, and hopefully we're able to answer this, is what do the air bars look like on the percent of travelers who say they feel safe in 15% bars and restaurants versus 14% domestic travel, 68% cars?
The percentage of errors, is that the question?
I believe so,
Like the
yes.
percent error in that estimation?
Was that one of the slides? Is that what we're referring to?
Yeah, I think they're referring to your slide with about 20 different items on there, and what's the percent of error in that, I think is the question.
This one?
Yeah.
She said air bars, I mean, is the big significant difference between 14 and 15%. Is there a big difference?
I couldn't say.
That's okay. We can always get back to her too once we do have a better answer. So Trevor, are there any indicators that show whether tourism will occupy hotels versus campgrounds?
You know, we're watching, boy, it's funny. Everybody's got a different thought and belief on this. There's been a lot of surveys that have gone out trying to pick up on sentiment, not only of that, but are people going to be more comfortable in short-term rentals, camping, or hotels? They all kind of have their own atmosphere. And even in the hotel sector, there's a lot of variety in that too. So I think time will tell. I see pros and cons to all of them. And really, I think it's more dependent upon the space that you're going to visit. So yeah, it'll be hard to tell. I know a lot of people are going to want to be outdoors. So clearly camping is going to be of interest to a lot of consumers, but not everybody is a camper, right? I mean, I love it, but I mean, most times when we travel, I'm going to stay in a hotel. That's my thing. So, you know, I think people kind of go back to the things they're most comfortable with and feel the safest with. And that's what's important about no matter which choice they make, they're probably going to make the choice somewhat contingent upon the safety plan that that property has, right? So if you're going to come into a campground, you're going to want to know that there's some precautions being taken. You're probably going to investigate that where you wouldn't have before. Same with your hotel choice, same with your short-term rental choice. You're going to want a little bit more depth in that transaction than you would have in the past. So it might turn out to be about the same percentages as what we've seen, but maybe just a little bit more scrutiny.
And remember with campgrounds, you still have some community areas that you're sharing. So that's going to change how campgrounds work. And up here, campgrounds get full too. I mean, especially in the Traverse City market, we get it often. Like someone comes in with a fifth wheel, like, hey, we were going to go to the campground, but it's all full. We need a hotel room for the night. So that's a big point. But you know, Trevor, kind of going back to hotels. When we took over Brio Beach and we had Points North, it was perceived like outdoor corridors was not really a luxury in hotels. It was like, oh, well, it'd be great if it was all indoor and stuff like that. We even looked at Points North going to indoor corridors for a few years ago. So now that I'm thinking of it, I was like, wow, it's amazing that that's actually sought after. People feel more comfortable in that because, you know, you're really only touching one thing, which is the doorknob. And if it's your own room, you know, that's your area. Instead of touching 3 handles to get to your room, going in an elevator in closed space, it's really, it's amazing how this has changed that kind of viewpoint on outdoor corridor, hotels, motels, how that's set up.
Perfect. Well, we are just about at time, so I just want to answer ask 2 more quick questions for you guys. Someone did ask for group events like weddings and the different markets. Do you think those will rebound quicker than associations, government, and corporate events?
Yes, they will for a few reasons. One, you can do smaller groups normally with that. 2, I mean, people are going to keep getting married, but 2, I think the group business is going to be a challenge. You know, a lot of budgets have dried up. You're always going to have weddings and reunions. We saw this back during the recession. A lot of the group corporate business kind of went away for a while when the economy struggled, and now with the restrictions on top of it. And now that we all know how to do a Zoom, just like education, you're probably going to see a conversion of some of that business, and it'll be more difficult to get that business back.
Perfect. 50% seating has been part of other states' rollouts. Do you think Michigan will be there by June?
If this is a restaurant-related question, I don't.
When do you think, just, you know, obviously personal opinion, when do you think that we might begin to see that for Michigan?
I just based on the pace. So currently we have an executive order in our business that runs through the 22nd of May. You know, I think we're really hoping to see an impact on, you know, the COVID numbers at the end of May. There's a chance that in June we would see that be there, but my guess is there are studies that are happening now about how the virus originates in different environments that are going to really impact this, and that's going to be the thing that tells the story on restaurants, and some of that data is yet to be collected, and I don't mean to sound negative on that. I think for me, the mantra in our business we've been trying to live with is, what part of normal can I let go of today as a mentality, and just think about how we do our best business under what we do believe is currently going to be there. And so when it comes to staffing choices and how we build the business, in particular for the summer, trying to build a business that doesn't count on that. If it happens, great, but I don't see, there isn't a lot of information that point me in a direction that would be June this moment, considering we're 2 days away from May, and time goes fast, stuck in your house.
It does. It's so true. This will be the last question we'll take, again, just for the sake of time. We are slightly over. So I think this has been a big one for a lot of people. Any ideas on how to get people to come back to work when unemployment pays more than hospitality hourly wages? I know we've gotten that question quite a bit. So what are your guys' takes on that?
It's again, another dwelling question is like, how do you tell someone, say, hey, I need you back, but, say they were at the max benefit of $962 a week, and which equates to, I think, $27 an hour. I know they say 24, but you have to consider taxes into it. So to get them to that $962 take home is huge, to try and convince someone that. And so that's going to be a hard thing, and that lasts all the way till July 31st is the CARES Act, that additional $600. If it was just the Michigan unemployment, it'd be a much easier question right now. But with that $600 in there from the CARES Act, that is going to be, I'm really worried that that's going to be detrimental to our businesses as well. Trying to find labor, because I mean, frankly, our hotels, I'm sitting here looking at, I need to hire about three front desk team members and a couple of housekeepers, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to surpass on some Facebook ads and other ads to say, hey, come work for me. I'll still offer a competitive wage, but I can't meet that $24, $27 an hour that you're getting right now sitting at home enjoying your family.
I'll comment real quick. I mean, I know, first of all, I've known Jonathan for a long time. He's a guy that really cares about his business and the business environment. And I think a part of the question is just, was the job of value to the person before this, and how much part of a team were they, and were they valued, and were they part of that? Because I know in our business, we have a real good amount of the people who want to come back to work. I mean, it's just, they want to work. It's the fabric of being human as part of that. That said, short term, I do think, there's risk. There's inherent risk in these jobs. And I know we're looking at, kind of very incrementally looking at how we compensate over the next couple of weeks, just to acknowledge, one, there's risk here, and thank you for being here. As much as anything. And so that's not long lasting, potentially change. It may end up being a piece of this that lasts, but a lot of the ways that we look at our benefits and things like that, we have to be creative right now and make sure that we're creating a space that people want to come to work. And that's the onus is on us. Because I think, the idea that people just want to sit at home, we've all gotten a lot of that. I think people are ready to be valued in their workplace and have that social part of their life. I'm not as concerned about that versus creating a space they want to be in.
Yeah, I just add one more thing. Technically, if they get called back into work, they're supposed to come back into work, right? So there's always that. And we as the ones who temporarily laid people off, we got to approve that paperwork too. So if it comes in and we ask them to come into work, we can deny those benefits as well, or say that they don't qualify. So there's other safety measures there. I think the other thing, I'll kind of play off what Jason's saying. I think people want to work, and I think that it's been very inconsistent, these checks. People think, I'm going to sit home, I'm going to take $900 for a while, this is okay. I've got a lot of friends who are not getting that check yet. And I think they'd much rather be at work where they know they're going to get that paycheck than be hoping the government's going to remember their name and send them a check.
But the one thing you have to remember, and I agree with you guys, I think with our current employees, we'll be fine with them because they enjoy coming back to work. They trust us. They know it's those new employees. Because remember, this time of the year is new hire time. We need new employees to try and convince them to come away from another job and come to us. that's a huge hurdle to, and I'm optimistic. I don't want it to sound doom and gloom, but that's the hurdle that I'm facing is how do I convince them to come off that, let's just say $600 benefit. How do I convince them to come off that benefit and work for me and have that risk? You know, we're gonna help them and make sure they're safe and give them benefits for their wages during this time. But that's going to be the big thing is right now is new hire period time and trying to convince them to come away from another job and work for us when they can be at home, be safe with their family, $962 max payout. That's a hard argument to make for someone.
Yeah, and you couple that with the challenges with international. A lot of businesses count on international workers coming for the summer season. That's really
and they're not going to be here in May. We'll be lucky to see them in June. You know, I just had several calls and emails in regards to that. You know, it's possible it's going to be canceled. J1 program. Everyone's kind of anxious to hear more and more about that. So,
yeah, it is. That's a good point, Jonathan.
Yes, well, I definitely agree. I can't thank you guys enough for your time today. I think this was so valuable and so important. I hope everyone listening was able to gain very helpful information from this as well. If there's any questions that you had that we did not have a chance to answer today, Trevor did share all of the email addresses. You can also contact anyone at Traverse Connect. We'd be more than happy to pass on your questions to our experts here today. And also, we do have another webinar today at 2 o'clock touching on the CARES and Recovery Act with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce at 2 p.m. So if you're looking for more information on that, feel free to head over to our website, traversconnect.com/events, and you can sign up for that. And with that being said, Trevor, Jonathan, and Jason, thank you again so much for your time today, all of your knowledge. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.